Hello buddy, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 online gameplay. And this time around, it's a friendly 1v1. One of a few. I recently played against a friend of mine, Der Scheich, on the map Prague. And we are playing as Norsca against Chaos. So, two rather similar factions, both searching to get the attention of their Chaos gods. And I decided to go with a bit of a themed army and just see, for fun, how it would work out. And that is all Marauders, or all Norskins. No Mammoths, no Skin Wolves, no Fimir, no monsters of any sort. We are going with, well, I guess we do have the Norscan Warhounds, but besides that, it is all Norskins. So, I figured if we go super wide, if we all out Daka, if we have some kiting cav, we might be able to pull through. It might be difficult, but we can give it a shot for sure. So for my lord here, I am rolling with a Marauder Chieftain. Not much to be said for this guy. As I've said in the recent video, I do think he's a bit garbage, but I figured let's go with the theme to the hilt. And so he's on a chariot. He just has good armor. He actually retains a bronze shield, which is really weird. I guess this guy is so skillful with that hide shield that he can even block for the horses out here. I don't know. But he does get a shield. AP, okay melee stats for a chariot, and I did bring fight or die to get that extra leadership and melee attack buffs. Alongside him, there's a Shaman Sorcerer of Metal. He is coming in with Final Transmutation as well as Plague of Rust. Unfortunately, I simply didn't. Unfortunately, he doesn't have really abilities to improve his Winds of Magic gen, which kind of sucks. Now, in the front line, it is simply just there to hold. They are all chevron up pretty heavily. A mix of Marauder Spearmen as well as some Marauders. We do also have the Icehorn Marauders here in the center, ready to anchor the line with their perfect vigor and immune psychology. So that will be very valuable against Chaos, which can bring some big nasties like the Everchicken over here. On the flanks, we do have Marauder Horsemen as well as Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes, doubled up. And these guys, of course, can deal with some of the heavier threats, like, say, Shaggoth play, or Chaos Dragons, perhaps Dragon Ogres, units like that. Finally, Beasts of Tashnar are in the back, providing some anti-large, and we have a very sizable missile contingent. We've got Marauder Hunters with Javelins, very powerful against units like Kolek, and they'll even do some damage to the Everchicken just because they have very high. Everchicken doesn't have much armor. These guys have a very high bonus of large 15, bonus for large of 15, so it's like they've got a 60% boost to their damage output, essentially, which is pretty nuts. We also did bring some of the Marauder Hunters, and as I've mentioned before, I also don't think these guys are a particularly great unit, but they do have some decent offensive stats, and if we get our hatchets out, I figured, you know, with the Shield Breaker, we might be able to damage some shielded Chaos Infantry and help our front line deal and hold. Now, for my opponent here, Der Scheich is running a very sort of diverse and pretty well-rounded Chaos build. So throw the Everwatcher rolling around here. He's got most of his kit. He's got Transmutation of Lead in case I went with a melee heavy build, and Final Transmutation, Plague of Rust, Metal Shifting, as well as Arcane Conduit, and Standard Die. So all in all, some decent buffs. And of course, the Everchicken could potentially be a menace here, as I do not have anything in the way of high mass units except some cavalry. The front line here composed of a mix of Chaos Warriors with great weapons, Chosen with great weapons, Chaos Warriors with halberds, so a whole mixed bag of stuff, going really just pretty mid-tier, but with some eliteness there with the Chosen, and looking to win that front line fight. On the flanks, we do have some Marauder Horsemasters. These guys are pretty good at countering light cav, like the Marauder Horsemen and Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes, and I'll use single unit of Chaos Knights with lances to provide some rear charging or support in some way, shape, or form. There's also a unit of Dragon Ogres providing some anti-large backup, and a single unit of Aspiring Champions to keep leadership up, which is pretty nifty. Usually if you have a big Chaos Lord like Sarthoriel or Kolek, you can't really count on them to be sticking around with the front line a lot of the time, so getting that encourage effect from Aspiring Champions is definitely nifty. Obviously, if you're running a Lord like, say, Sigvald, you probably don't want that, but in this situation, I think it's pretty good. Now, as you can see, the lines are moving pretty quickly. You can see I'm trying to get my Javelins to start poking away at the Dragon Ogres, because I figured they're going to be a big threat. So the big threats here are going to be Sarthoriel and the Dragon Ogres, but trying to shoot Sarthoriel is kind of a waste, in my opinion, just because he's got so much missile resist. And you can see here, the Chaos Warriors actually taking quite a bit of damage. They're losing about 1,500 HP in the space of seconds from the hatchets, and the Javelins are now flying into the Dragon Ogres. Now, Dragon Ogres do have some missile resist. I can check here. 25% in fact, so they're not the weakest against missile damage, but with 45 armor, they are not going to hold very well. And you can see the Marauder Chieftain there just kind of running amok as the Everchicken dives through, and unfortunately he does cast a Final Transmutation here, melting this front line, and it's a bit wasted in my opinion. I don't think this is a good use of Final Transmutation. I think a better casting of Final Transmutation would be on my Lord, because he is a much more valuable unit. But hitting the Shaman Sorcerer, also not bad. Definitely does some damage. And unfortunately, Sarthoriel is just running amok. And of course, the short-range missiles from Norsca who I forgot to put in guard stance to boot, are going to struggle here because they are very clumped up. It's very difficult not to clump them up, and so they are kind of getting demolished. Now, in the meantime, though, Chaos Warriors here did get destroyed. Chosen, though, plowing through alongside the Chaos Warriors, Halberds, and Aspiring Champs, just butchering these Marauders, despite the best efforts of the Marauder Chieftain to keep the units in the fray. And we are being forced to pull forward our spears. In the meantime, on the flank here, bit of major misplay on my part as I allowed the Beasts of Tashnar and some of my Marauder Cavalry to get caught up by the Chaos Knights while they were pursuing the Marauder Horsemasters. And so this little skirmish is kind of going on the flanks here. The Beasts of Tashnar are routed, and fortunately I didn't put these guys in skirmish stance, so they're getting kind of their butts pounded here. They finally do decide to pull back, but a little late, and the Chaos Knights have definitely done some hurt. In the meantime, here in the pits, the Marauder Chieftain, I figured, you know, he might be able to do some damage to the Dragon Ogres with his chariot. Oftentimes, heroes on chariots do some okay work, and he does land a few meaty hits there, but now he's taking a lot of damage, and I simply leave him in the fight a bit too long, so definitely a big misplay there. In the meantime, the Throwing Axe is doing some major work here against the Chaos Warriors with Halberds, who they're able to kite, so that is one of the nice things about Marauders. They're just very nippy. They've got 35 speed as opposed to the 28 in Chaos Warriors. And so we are able to sort of kite, throw some hatchets in, retreat, rinse, repeat. Unfortunately, Sartorial just being an absolute pain in the rear, already up to 100 kills. Obviously, some of that with Final Transmutation, but still a total menace. Javelins do go in on the Dragon Ogres, though, completely messing them up. These two of them go down to those Hunters' projectiles. And although Sartorial is definitely demolishing these guys, we are able to remove the Dragon Ogres from play, so that's a big win. In the meantime, the Marauder Chieftain here is running over the Chaos Warriors with Halberds. In the back line, it is a bit of a pell-mell as the Chaos Knights are just getting hit from all sides by throwing axes, hatchets, all that sort of stuff. The Marauder Horsemen getting run off the field a little bit there, which is definitely unfortunate. But in the meantime, the Horsemasters, you know, they've taken some hurt. The Chaos Knights are basically gone. And I'm trying to get these Marauder Spears in the fight. And this was a big misplay. I really should have kept these Marauder Spears here in the fray. They could have helped against Arthuriel, just try to bog him down, buy me some time. And because I didn't do that, I'm going to get screwed over there a little bit. In the meantime, the Marauder Chieftain is going to swing over this way, looking to plow through these Chaos Warriors as well as Chosen, do some damage. You can definitely do some hurt. Obviously, Heroic Chariots are very powerful units. They can get a lot of value. And Sartorial here is actually starting to take some fire, so I decided to focus him out. I figured, you know what? He is obviously a big threat. He's definitely very dangerous, but if I can tie him down, if I can just keep him pinned in place, hit him with javelins, throwing axes, everything I got, I might be able to do enough damage to kill him off or get him close to death. And that is kind of what we're trying to do. So Sartorial here pops Standard Die. He's popping Arcane Conduit. I don't think Standard Die is really useful here because he doesn't have leadership. Sartorial's unbreakable. Arcane Conduit, though, will give him some potential to cast more spells. The Dragon Ogres here getting a meaty charge in, or trying to get a meaty charge in, getting a few swings into the Marauder Hunters and doing some damage, but then they are shortly escorted off by the volleys of hatchets, and they definitely just can't hold up to that much firepower. So Sartorial, though, can, and he is doing his best here to be a nuisance. You can see Marauder Horsemasters diving in. Now, my cavalry is on station, and they are diving in to help, but a little late, definitely a little delayed there. And so these Horsemasters get quite a bit of damage in, which is not good. That's something I would have preferred to avoid. And you can see we are able to escort these guys off the field. The Beasts of Tashnar with their bonus for Slarge are getting in here as well, trying to get on these Marauder Horsemasters. They will be able to shred them. But that said, Balance of Power hanging right in the middle there, dead center. The Horsemasters here getting destroyed. They're down to 12, 10, 9 models, just getting torn apart. Beasts of Tashnar diving in. So Sartorial trying to help here, and he's definitely going to be a nuisance because he's got fear and terror and all that stuff. But I figured, you know, at this stage, things are looking up a little bit. Balance of Power is swinging slowly towards my side of things. I did manage to run over a lot of these Chosen. They're now down to 25 models and only 1600 HP. The Chaos Warriors break. The Dragon Ogres are probably not going to be able to recover. They actually shatter there. And it's just Sartorial, essentially. Sartorial against the world. The problem is we are Norsca, and so our leadership is not the best. And you can see Balance of Power there hinging in the middle. And of course, if my opponent gets a nice Final Transmutation, as he does here, things could get very hairy. And you can see, or actually that was my Final Transmutation, my mistake. So I do get him at Final Transmutation on Sartorial. He does have some magic resist, so he's not going to be the most badly afflicted by it. But at this stage of the game, I figured I'm kind of out of options. I don't have too much left. Now, the Chaos Knights here do get into the fray. They've got Standard Die keeping them in the fight. Now, we do have some Marauder Spearmen there who are going to be helping out. The problem is I don't have leadership support, so these guys are definitely going to be threatened by terror routes from Sartorial. The Spears there definitely do a lot of hurt to the Chaos Knights with Lances. And unfortunately, I've had these guys in I do believe I had them in melee stance, and unfortunately some of them shatter, so now my horsemen are gone. And so while these Chaos Knights are definitely not in great shape, and most of them are gone, at this stage of the game I have a very beat up army, and Sartorial is still pretty healthy. He's 2500 HP, 220 kills, he's had an absolute field day. And although we are able to rout off these Chosen, and I'm starting to rally my troops back, I'm trying to pull them all back in here, Der Scheich still does have Sartorial. He still does have the Knights. Knights probably aren't that much of a threat at this point. 7 models, unless he gets a nice rear charge, they're not going to do very much besides breaking leadership. Unfortunately, the Chosen do rally here on a grand total of 7 models, which is a little annoying. You can't see 9 leadership. They're wavering. Unfortunately, the Marauder Chieftain does not actually cause fear, so I have no sources of leadership debuffs to break my opponent with. Chaos Knights actually just break from, I don't know, the site of that burning hut over there, or is that even a house? It's like a... I don't even know what that's supposed to be. It's like a bonfire on a rock. But either way, I'm at this point sort of trying to rally my troops, trying to generate some Winds of Magic. The problem is I didn't have quite enough Winds of Magic to get another Final Transmutation, which could have been pretty invaluable here. And so we're just kind of trying to settle around, perhaps wait a little bit, recover some... probably should have stopped here and waited to recover some vigor, but unfortunately we're not doing that. In the meantime, I do take my Marauder Chieftain over here. He's down 700 HP, and I figure let's go after these Chosen and get them off the field, because that could be pretty valuable. Unfortunately, and strangely enough, these guys actually will get some hits in. So you can see as he charges through, he actually takes multiple hits. He actually takes 4 hits there from the Chosen. So he loses about 200 HP on the charge there. Sure, he kills some model, but that is pretty brutal stuff. Something I didn't anticipate. I figured they wouldn't get their attack animation off, which definitely pretty painful. 200 damage there from the Chosen with the Great Weapon. So we're going to pull away, trying to get another charge in. They're down to 6 leadership. So yeah, I was really hoping they'd break at this point, but another charge and another hundreds of HP. Even as these guys get knocked over, they don't go down. So we're now down to 400 HP, and this was definitely a big misplay because I lost about 300 HP there that could have been way valuable later on. You can see these Chosen here getting overrun. They get another swing in before they're down to 4 models now. Actually, last model here, last guy actually gets run over without getting a swing in, but at this point we've lost about half our HP or remaining HP, so that's definitely rough. Over here we are simply recovering our vigor. These guys are now active. These guys are still very tired. Probably should have sat tight for a little bit longer. But one of the things I was worried about is that Sartorial at this point could generate some more Winds of Magic. That said, for my opponent, one of the unfortunate things that's going to happen to him here is that when all your units are gone from the field and you're down to 1 unit, actually removes your bottom bar. So he's no longer going to be able to cast, which definitely very unfortunate for him. Definitely kind of unfair, or rather unfair, because he could have gotten 1 more Final Transmutation. But as the rest of his troops are getting removed from play here, Sartorial is no longer going to be able to cast. But I didn't realize this at the time. I completely forgot about that. It was something we discussed after the fact. But Sartorial is going to dive in here looking to smash down on these Marauder Spearmen, and I figured, you know, the Marauder Spears can do some work. Sartorial is not that tanky in melee. He's only got 40 melee defense, which isn't the greatest. 30 armor, not the best. So if I can keep my leadership up, if I can keep my boys in the fight here, we can pull this one off. We can pull this one, and we can pull through. Unfortunately, my Marauder Chieftain, he does not have rage. He doesn't have good leadership, and he actually gets countercharged here by Sartorial, bashed, and before I can get stand or die, or fight or die, he routs. So that's a bit of a disaster. So though definitely getting jabbed down. The spears, he's at this point exhausted, so he's not able to maneuver as well through the blob of spears. And some of these spears are, you know, in some decent shape, only winded. The Shaman Sorcerer metal diving in there to lay a clobbering down as well, and helping to provide encourage to all these troops. Unfortunately, our hunters there do rout, which is definitely bad, because as I've mentioned in previous videos, if you can generate those chain routes, it can be pretty brutal stuff. But Sartorial is starting to get whittled down. He's down to 1500 HP there, trying to tear out these Marauder Spears, but they do have that relatively high leadership because of the chevrons and the support from Shaman Sorcerer. High leadership by the status of this game. And so we are able to whittle down the Everchicken here. He's definitely starting to take a pounding. You can't see the spears are in there, jabbing him down. He's trying to cycle charge a little bit. I actually hit him with a Plague of Rust because I realized I'm not going to get a Final Transmutation at this stage. It's just never going to happen. So we're just jabbing him from all sides, trying to bring him down. But unfortunately, our Shaman Sorcerer is getting pursued. I do try to countercharge, but Sartorial gets a big swing in there, down to 500 HP. But you know, spears are still in there. Now, these guys still have 1200 HP, 1500 over here, so they're not done. And Sartorial, like I mentioned, right now with just Plague of Rust on him, he's got no armor. He's got very low melee defense. If we can jab him to death, if he can get a few jabs in there, a few meaty spear connections, he's not going to have a good day. So he's kind of meandering through the line, being an absolute nuisance. But and that's definitely one of the problems right now, is that we have a lot of low mass stuff. But my Shaman does rally here, promptly before instantly routing, which means Plague of Rust is shortly going to expire. Unfortunately, these spears, though, are still around. They're not routing. I do get some hunters back in the distance. So Sartorial takes a few more jabs, so he's now down to 390 HP. And things are definitely hanging in the balance. I decided to regroup, try to get my spears back together, try to get the hunters back in, but they shatter. Unfortunately, Sartorial here is getting a meaty charge into the spears, and now he's up to 289 kills, doing some brutal work. Terror kicks in on the spears. Balance of power is actually in my favor right now. But the problem is that leadership is definitely going to be screwing him over. Plague of Rust does go down. Sartorial down to 188 188 HP, 102, and suddenly he terrorizes the spears, and army losses, I suppose, kicks in, and my entire army shatters, despite the fact the balance of power was in my favor at that moment. But definitely a very tight game, very close, and very fun, sort of hectic mess of a battle. Now, quite frankly, the build I brought was not particularly competitive. Marauder Chieftain doesn't get rage on any mount, as far as I'm aware, except maybe his horse, which is kind of pathetic. You'd expect him to get that. Why doesn't Marauder Chieftain get rage on anything? Wolfric gets rage, even on a Mammoth. But, Marauder Chieftain, obviously a pretty terrible lore choice. The Shaman Sorcerer of Metal, not necessarily bad. My main problem there was that I didn't have high mass units. I had the Light Cav, but that's not, and I kind of misused them against the Chaos Knights. Though ultimately, when breaking it down, given that they did essentially kill off the Chaos Knights, the Marauder Horsemasters, these guys essentially paid for themselves. They basically delivered this group. My main problem was just stopping Sorthoril. 300 kills on the Everchicken is just insane. And I think there were a few micro slip-ups where he got caught up in infantry where that didn't have to happen, so I think he could have got even more kills. Simple fact was I just didn't have high mass units to stop the Everchicken. I probably should have focused him earlier, though I focused the Dragon Ogres instead, seeing them as the bigger threat. Another mistake was keeping my Chieftain in the fight against the Dragon Ogres, which cost me quite a bit of HP that I could have used later on. But honestly, this build just isn't that competitive. I think if you wanted to make a similar build to this, and you wanted to be competitive, I'd probably ditch a few of the chevrons, maybe cut out some of the marauders, or maybe swap out like a unit of marauder hunters. Get a finagle a little bit with the items. Bring Wolfric. Finagle a little bit with items. Get a skin wolf or two on the field, just to give you high mass, and then your shooting will probably be able to carry the day. If I had even a single unit of skin wolves to tie down Sorthoril, prevent him from getting through to the back line, that would have been enough for my shooting to probably bring him down, or hell, the skin wolves could probably kill Sorthoril in a melee. Because he doesn't have great melee defense, and he's got no armor, so skin wolves are really perfect against him. So, yeah, that's just my take there. I think the build, obviously, I don't think it's terrible against anything except Sorthoril, and like Kolak and like big monsters. And oh well, that was just something I accepted with the fact that it's an all Marauder build. Now for my opponent, I do think the build here is not necessarily terrible. That said, I do think this build is very vulnerable to Mammoth spam. If you're, I'm not even spam, like a single Mammoth would probably ruin your day here. Like a Mammoth and 2 Javelins to mess up these Dragon Ogres basically mean that your entire army is going to get trampled on. I think a Shaggoth or Kolak are practically mandatory in this matchup. And I think you don't have to overinvest too much in the infantry fight, because the fact is you're probably, Chaos Warriors are good enough. You don't need Chosen necessarily. Chaos Warriors are good enough to manhandle basically everything Norsca can put on the field in a cost-efficient manner. Even Marauder Champions they can deal with. Maybe not perfectly, but they will cut them down over time. And with some help from spells or monsters. And you just really need something to counter Mammoths. And I think this build would not have been able to counter that, really. You've got a few Javelins you can throw out. You do have Sorthoril to kind of tie things down, but Sorthoril can't really duel a Mammoth. So really your only tools here against larger Dragon Ogres, or against Mammoths specifically. So if there was 1 Mammoth, it would probably be trouble. If it was 2 or 3, which you will sometimes see from Norsca, I don't think the build could handle it at all. And while 2 to 3 Mammoths are expensive, it still leaves Norsca with a decent amount of tools to tie you down in melee, to dish out some support to the Mammoths. So do keep that in mind. So that's just my 2 cents. Well played to Dershai here. It was a really fun game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching as well. If you have any comments, criticism, questions, requests, as usual, don't hesitate to put them down below. I'll respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.